Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too. Welcome in. Today, we're going to be talking about how to control late night snacking. Now, before we jump into that, let's talk about why you would even consider controlling late night snacking. You've gone to work all day. You maybe had a little bit of stress throughout the work day. Maybe you got home, had dinner and stuff. You're spending time with your wife, and now you just want to enjoy yourself a little bit and have a snack, maybe a drink or something, which is completely fine. This is normal, right? But when it comes to your fitness, when it comes to your health, when it comes especially to weight loss, snacking is one of the biggest indicators that's going to make or break your progress. Now, if you search on Google or ChatGPT or ask a coach or something, one of the most common questions is, what are some healthy snacks that I can have? And this is a fine question. This is obviously, we're trying to make the best of the situation, right? And some common answers, you could be like, yeah, you could get some fruit and some nuts, maybe a Greek yogurt or a protein shake or things like that. And those are all great options. But the more you snack, the harder it's going to be to actually lose weight, because when you snack, so let's say you have your calorie goal in order to be in a deficit to lose weight at a sustainable pace is 2,100 calories. Okay, and so you have breakfast, you have lunch, you have dinner. So we know you're going to have 3 meals a day. So let's say you have 300 or 400. Let's say 400 calories for breakfast. You have a 700 calorie lunch, and now if you just had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that leaves 1,000 calories for dinner, right? And so 400, 700, 1,000, that's 2,100. You're eating a very large dinner and still making progress, right? So that would be ideal, right? Now, let's say you add a snack in between breakfast and lunch. Fine. Now, what has to happen is we have to budget this, right? And so think if you're trying to save, you're trying to put your money in different categories here, and you have a savings account, you have an investment account, you have an education account, you have all these different accounts, right? If you pull from one account, or if you're wanting to add another account here, if your income doesn't increase, then you have to take from another area, right? And so same thing here. If we're not increasing our activity, if we're not increasing other things that are going on, we have to pull from somewhere else. So maybe you pull from the dinner, right? So instead of 1,000 calories, it's 900 or 800, depending on your snack, right? Now we add in a snack between lunch and dinner. Now we have to pull from somewhere else. If you add a snack in late into the evening, now we're adding a whole, we're having to pull from breakfast, lunch, and dinner from the main meals or from one of the other snacks. And so you can see how this gets very difficult. And the more accounts you add, the more snacks you add, the more difficult it's going to be to see progress long term, because now you're having to budget so many things. And so if you only had 3 bank accounts, you had your expenses, you had your savings, and you had your giving, it'd be much easier than if you added education and you added a beach vacation and you added maybe you wanted to save up for a home gym, or you wanted to buy a new TV. So now you have all these other accounts. And so you can either have to pull from you have to make the other one a little bit smaller. Now, when we think of snacks, if those are smaller, then obviously they're not going to be as filling, right? And so how to control late night snacking. So first, so we already can kind of see like how this can kind of be a struggle here, but this is something very common. Late night snacking is something that's very common. Almost every single client I've ever worked with has always told me, this is something, I get on the couch, I relax at the end of the day, and all of a sudden I'm eating more than I plan to. Okay, so let's fix this. Number one is, like, if we can eliminate snacking by increasing our meal size, if we can have a bigger dinner, then we're going to be less tempted to have, tons of snacks in the afternoon, in the evening, right? If you're somebody who has a very small dinner, there's a good chance you're probably going to be very hungry before bed, right? It's not a lot of fun to go to sleep when your stomach's growling. So this is something. So we want to try and keep dinner to be a reasonable size here. Right now, if you're somebody who doesn't eat a lot for breakfast, doesn't eat a lot for lunch, and all of a sudden now we're just overeating for dinner, that can be a problem too, right? So we want to make sure that we're prioritizing protein throughout the day. We're hitting our protein goal. I like to hit almost my entire protein goal before I get to dinner, right? I don't always hit the entire thing, but I try and get most of it. That way I can enjoy dinner a little bit more. And I know if I'm getting close to my protein goal, I'm getting some fiber throughout the day. Those foods, protein, fiber, are going to keep me the most full. And so that's something that I try and work on throughout the day, is hitting my protein goal. And so I do have snacks as well, and a lot of my snacks. And so what I do a lot of times is I generally have a pretty small breakfast, because I like to have bigger meals later on. I like to have a bigger lunch. I like to have a bigger dinner. Dinner is by far my biggest meal. For lunch, what I will do is I will cook a pretty large meal, but I will eat half of it. So let's say one of my hacks I always like to do is I like to go to Chipotle, and I will immediately get half of it, put it in a Tupperware container. Now I have lunch and a snack, and I find that even just eating half of a Chipotle bowl is very filling for me, right? Could I eat the entire thing for lunch? Absolutely, right? But I have proven to myself that I don't actually need that much. And so what I like to do, one of the meals I like to make that's very filling, is I will take about a cup of 93.7, 96.4 ground beef there, very lean ground beef. I will heat that up. I usually cook it on Sunday, so I'll cook 2 pounds of it on Sunday. I take a cup of that, and I will take 2 high fiber, high protein tortillas. I'll use a cup of cheese, and then I'll add, possibly sometimes I'll add some veggies in that as well, and I make myself a very large quesadilla. I will chop that in half, and I will put half of it, I cut it into fourths, and I put half of that in a Tupperware container. So now I have half for lunch, half for a snack, and that is very filling for me, right? That's going to be, let's see here, 36 plus 24. I'm doing some quick math here on the protein. 60, it's 70. It's about 70 grams of protein in that quesadilla, right? And so that's something that works really well for me. Now, there's lots of other options you can do here. Now, if we're just talking about the snacking here, right? And so number one is, a rule I like to live by is, if there's food in your house, you or someone you love will eventually eat it. And so if you have fruit in your house, someone's going to eat it. If you have chips in your house, someone's going to eat it, right? So either you or someone you love. And in my house, I am someone I love. I will be the one that eats it. And so I am very cautious about the things I bring in. My mother-in-law makes comments all the time that she wishes she was as disciplined as me when it comes to dessert. I love dessert. I absolutely could just devour an entire thing of cookies, but I know that if I have one, there's a good chance I'm going to have 2. And if I'm going to have 2, I might as well just have 3, right? And so I don't eat that first one, because I know it easily snowballs. Now, chips are the same thing. I love chips. I love things like that, but I do not buy them. Now, we obviously have them in the house sometimes, right? My wife and I both love nachos. The kids love nachos, things like that. We'll make nachos and stuff like that. But a lot of times when I buy snacks, I will do my best to buy individual packages. Yes, it's more expensive, but it's much easier to eat one small bag that is already pre-portioned than it is to open up the big bag and, practice proper portion control while sticking my hand into the bag, right? My portions always seem to be a little bit bigger, right, than they need to be. And so I know that if it's a food that I struggle with, I just don't bring it in the house. If it's a food that I know that I'm eventually going to eat, I just don't buy it, right? And so if I want ice cream, if I want cookies or something, I make it difficult on myself. I have to get in the car. I have to drive to the store. I have to go purchase it. I apologize about that. I have to go purchase it separate from the rest of the grocery chips. So now I'm adding a little bit of resistance, and that resistance is typically enough for me to just not have it in the first place. And so if you're struggling with late night snacking, first, let's make sure you're getting, big enough meals throughout the day so you're not starving in the evening. We're getting enough protein. We're getting enough fiber. And if there are foods that you do struggle with, don't bring them in the house. Don't bring them in the house. And if you know you're going to want to enjoy them eventually, buy smaller sizes of them, or make it difficult on yourself. make yourself have to go to the store to add a little bit of resistance.
That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.